Good morning, everyone. It is Saturday, the 7th of January, 2023, and I've finally taken some notes, not a lot, and I'm probably going to wing a lot of this stuff as well, but I do have just way too many notes to, to put to waste, and so anyways, I'll just get right to it. Cerebral spinal fluid, I've been looking a lot at that, not only in the last little while, but it was also part of my degree. I was going for a cognitive science degree at Carleton University, and then because of other courses that I was taking, and because of the stuff that I was aware of in my own life, just because of my own reading and learning, and again I do have other degrees, I just went down another path because what was being taught, I just on so many different levels was to me incorrect, and I was trying to share information with my professors, and it was going nowhere, and like very much ego was involved, and I was coming from a good place, but it's really hard to address these issues when it's all online learning, right? So this is just stuff that I was doing because of the pandemic, because of the fact that we were going to be locked down and things like that. I knew I was going to have to entertain myself with various things, and what better way to spend a pandemic than to just do like a lot of learning, especially science degrees. And again, I do have a science background anyways, and also like I've done so many different experiments, and I have so much like science equipment here too that led me down this flat earth plane, this multi-dimensional simulation anyways, what this is, and so many other things. So anyways, so cerebral spinal fluid, like I was already familiar with that in sections of the brain because of my degree, but also because of being diagnosed with complex PTSD in 2008, and then because of like various different like things that I've looked into, and the impacts again like of the brain and consciousness and all this stuff on our lives, and how perception really is reality, and what we resist really does persist, and so many other quotes and mottos and stuff like that really do come from what I'm going to try to explain. So let me see here. So cerebral spinal fluid, CSF, can be seen as consciousness, awareness of the universal mind, and it's the spinal fluid, we have it on the exterior and the interior of our brains, but we also have it runs down our spinal system as well, our spinal canal, and we currently have about 150 milliliters of CSF in our bodies, and throughout the day, within a 24-hour period, we do change or create anywhere between 450 and 600 milliliters. So in order to like recycle it and things like that. And so my notes are so bad, and I go on all these tangents, and I don't even know what I was saying here. Anyways, like through the spine, there's 33 vertebrae. I just wanted to add that, and the CSF goes not just from L2, which is where the spinal cord ends, but also all the way down to the sacrum, which is the tailbone, that V-shaped fused bone, and then all the way up to the brain. And I'll get more into why I was bringing that into this later, but essentially the central nervous system bathes in CSF as well. So our central nervous system, like again, this is stuff that is heavily influenced by CSF, and the cilia is like these fibers, these connections or antennas or whatever you want to call it, like these hair molecules or whatever. Also like transmit this energy flow and things like that. So this is why I also do things like I talk about like breathing in through like one nostril at a time to get us to get more oxygen flow to through the nose, like we were supposed to, because even in our nose we have cilia, these hair fibers that filter out like the not only filter like the pollutants in the environment or irritants, but it also, I believe, is something that like connects us more to our source, or whatever you want to call it, and we get a lot more information even at a subconscious level by virtue of breathing through our freaking noses, right? And so yeah, do more of that for so many different reasons, and then you can be more intuitive, possibly get more access to information that you wouldn't necessarily get if you were breathing out of your mouth, for so many different reasons. And so like this is I also wanted to add that there's 12 cranial nerves in the brain, and there's left and right hemispheres that people generally know about, and based on the culture, there's different ways of calling the left and right hemispheres, and we talk about one side being more emotion mind and one more rational, like logic mind, and how like you can only create intelligence through the intellect mind and the creative mind, or generating mind to create that intelligence. And so this is why I say that you can't be overly rational or logical, and you can't be overly emotional or dreamlike, or whatever you want to call it, because it's just too much of one extreme, and that's why balance is key. And these 12 cranial nerves, I also believe, are tied to the clock system that we use, and the 12 disc IPLs, and so many other things associated with 12. So yeah, CSF, it impacts biological and molecular. It impacts us on a biological and molecular level. Proteins, hormones, communication, and again, essentially how our molecules are created and developed is through the CSF. And apparently it's this blue essence or fluid, I don't know. And so like when I think about that, I think about the waters above and below, and I think about like why we call Neptune and like the color like with the blue, and how people think that like above the dome or there's this fluid that's this blue crystal fluid that I think is possibly like the CSF, this fluid just like we have within us. I think it's also on the exterior of us, and we're part of this bigger design, right? And so like when people talk about the sun being like source and the source of creation, all this stuff, I do believe that it's like an electrical magnetic, but especially a magnetic source of energy that heavily influences us because we are electrical magnetic beings. But I don't believe that it created itself, right? Like this is where I'm saying like there's at least one divine creator. Taurus fields, toroidal fields, Taurus, Tau, Rota, Tarot, all these things. But anyway, that created this simulation and multiple other ones as well, right? And so anyways, I go on all these freaking tangents. And that's why I believe above us is blue. But yeah, so like it impacts like protein growth factors. So like light, CSF continuum of energy within the fluid, ever present regardless of age. So yeah, so I was gonna say that like we still keep on regenerating CSF, and we still like depending on our sleep quality and all this stuff, like it doesn't really matter how old we are. This is good news. This is stuff that we can this means that we can access our higher levels of consciousness regardless, right? Like even if you're 99 and you just figured this stuff out, it's never too late to learn how to live like a more meaningful, purposeful life. Regulates the circadian rhythm, regulates nutrition, dispersion. It regulates hormones, regulates appetite, cell migration, instructs stem cells to proliferate, creates ionic balance, eliminates waste, protects like the CSF protects like the brain essentially, like and provides like a buoyant like area, like and shock absorbing area, and there's just so many things that the CSF assists with. And so POWA, PHOWA, Buddhist meditation applied at the moment of death to transfer consciousness to a Buddha. So like when people even in death, they even have these rituals in multiple different religions and cultures where they do a transference of the CSF. It's that important because like that's where they believe the spirit is. And that's why even with the body and the mind and the Holy Spirit, I believe that's or the Trinity or whatever you want to call it, I believe that's the pituitary gland, the pineal gland, and the CSF. But anyways, a receiver and transmitter of energy, vibrations, and information. This is what it is. Very important, more so than even blood. So, because like water absorbs, stores, transmutes energy, and we've seen that in plants and how plants can like recreate, be recreated and regenerate. But then even with words, how even words can impact even like rice within three different glasses. If you cooked rice. Have like that water moisture, whatever you want to call it, inside the rice. But then there's been tests done and other foods as well, and other types of materials. But someone like said positive words to like the first glass, and then said negative words to the second glass, and then just like would go towards like the third glass, and then like show intent of neglect. And then it turns out that like after several days, like the rice that like, there was positive things said, like it was it actually like it was still fine. And then the one that there's negative words, it was bad, but it was starting to mold and stuff like that. But it wasn't as bad as the one that was neglected, and it was very dark and it was very moldy already, and it was just like the whole glass, like it was just like it was very apparent, right? and try these out for yourself too, so that you can see that that our words and our thoughts, again, these are all things that influence our environments, and this is by virtue of the CSF and stuff like that. And so even if you're in an area where there's a lot of like bad energy, like you can like try to protect your own, and or do what I do, and go outside in nature, and then have periods of solace, and meditate, and just like free the mind of what's going on, like even with like the electricity, like the increase in electrical outflow and all this stuff. This really does impact us, but it's stored inside ventricles, fluid filled spaces. Yeah, so it's like literally in like so many different places that you need to connect, aware of a consciousness. Yeah, so the essence of source. And then even with like the the CSF, like where it travels like within our brain, it does also show like the sort of like the eye of Horus, if you're looking from the side, but it also shows like this, and with like with the CSF traveling down the middle of the brain, and towards the central nervous system, like down the spine, and so like it does reach each hemisphere, and then goes down. Then on the side again, it's also like representing like sort of like the eye of Horus. My drawings are terrible. This is why like I need help with this stuff. So the lateral ventricles contact the frontal, parietal, like occipital, and temporal lobes, right? Like this is how they're designed, right? And even the posterior horn, it makes contact with the like the visual like areas of the brain. So the third ventricle is the midline structure, a perfect, by the way, midline structure. It contacts the pineal gland, the pituitary gland, with the fluid, and again, this is where I think like we have like that's the Trinity, or whatever you want to call it. Every major like key area of the brain, like the CSF passes through it, like the hippocampus, the amygdala, like the cerebellum, like the medulla, like everything. And then there's also like, I don't know if I already mentioned this, but like this like did I talk about the walls and ventricles? You see like I have like so many like notes, but I don't want to like talk about all of them. I just want to make sure that I don't talk about the seed before I have to. Antennas, rods, like vibrations. So I don't know if anyone, like we talk about the earth, air, water, and fire. I say earth, wind, water, and fire, but also I do believe there's like a fifth element, and I believe that's ether, and I believe that's very magnetic in design as well. I believe that's what's like controlling this environment, and assisting us to like establish like this perceived reality that we're experiencing through our central nervous system, CSF, and pituitary and pineal glands. So it yeah, it's a vehicle for frequencies, light, vibrations, ions, hormones, chemicals, and mechanical flow, vibrations, movement. And so again, like all the things that are very important. I just wanted to keep on with that. So, okay, now I'm getting to melatonin. Since it's synthesized through tryptophan in the pineal gland and the small gland posterior part of the third ventricle, and what people call the third eye. It's or the eye of Horus, whatever you want to call it. And so like melatonin is again like created, or what do we want to call it, the pineal gland, and it's also apparently in the CSF as well, in the fluid, and so is DMT. So melatonin induces and maintains sleep, temperature, appetite. It's an antioxidant. It detoxes us, and so it literally assists us and if we don't sleep, we can die, right? And so also through our sleep, you can see the clearing of the of toxins and chemicals and stuff like that through the CSF as well. But I wasn't even going to bring that up, but I just wanted to. Yeah. Nighttime melatonin levels in the CSF, the cerebral spinal fluid. Just to reiterate what that is, it's 17 times more increased, the compound in the CSF, and it's only increased by 6 times in the blood during sleep. So very interesting stuff. DMT, dimethyltryptamine. It's seen a lot in the plant kingdom and trace amounts in animals. Shamans use it for rituals, to access higher levels of consciousness and ensuring like spiritual, again, ceremonies, or whatever you want to call it. And then also some people I know also like use it, and again, they've had pleasant experiences with it. And yeah, and there's endogenous DMT like in the blood, feces, urine, and lungs and kidneys of us as well. So through the and that's through the pineal gland DMT, and so you'll see the pituitary gland is about melatonin, and then the pineal gland is about DMT. I'm just skipping over a lot of notes, but so the third ventricle. So you got the thalamus, hypothalamus, and you've got the pituitary gland and the pineal gland, like in a certain area of the brain that are sometimes called like the Crystal Palace, what people are calling the Cave of Brahma, and so many other things. So now I'm going to talk about Kundalini and say that I've mentioned this before, but I highly recommend people look into Kundalini yoga, and there's a lot of books on it. And it's when like the moon enters your sun sign is when I guess the seed or this protein like starts from like the sacrum, and then it goes all the way up the canal where the CSF moves it from like to our pineal gland and pituitary glands, but pineal gland to access our third eye. And that's why like through meditation and cleansing yourself and not engaging in sexual activities or losing your essence or whatever you want to call it, with like these lower level temptations and desires, and then allowing the seed to go up to the crown, then this is where again we have more enlightenment and things like that. And this is where I think too, when like people talk about like the seed and or like not masturbating in a lot of religions too, like I do think that this is possibly why. It's because when you abstain from certain things for various periods of time, then you do access higher levels of consciousness if you're aware of how to like move or push up the seed or whatever you want to call it from like our sacral area up to our brains. Tiny fibers, condensed CSF protein. Yeah, so it starts at the base of the prine, like this condensed CSF protein, and then goes to the pineal gland, the third ventricle, third eye, if you're aware of it. So like yogis, they talk about two nerves, the Pingala and the Ida, and they actually call the CSF Sushumna. And so the Pingala and the Ida, it talks about like the left and right sides of the brain or of the body, whatever you want to call it, and then this coil power that I was talking about through Kundalini, where you can access visions and things like that. This is when Sushumna, like through the Sushumna, like the seed or serpent, like goes all the way up and enters the brain. And so that's where you have there's also three nadis, three energies, and that's also what is the Ida, the Pingala, and the Sushumna. So that's also a trinity. And when you see the double helix with the serpents on each side, the left and right, that's that also symbolizes the Ida and the Pingala, which is again like is representative of the pineal gland and the pituitary gland, and then when you do the cross sectors, like with the three energies, again with the Sushumna in the center, each cross sector is a chakra. And so like even with the 7 chakras, you start like at the lower chakra, that like the sacral chakra, and then you go all the way up to the crown chakra. And there's different chakras that where the serpents intersect or cross, that again are part of the chakras. So the staff of Sushumna, 2 serpents, Ida and Pingala, the heads meet at the third eye, intense lighting up of the fields. It's from the bottom up. So again, I've already talked about what they are. So the marriage of yin and yang, perfect harmony. So then, yeah, so like there's that, there's so many different, like that talks about even like the Christ oil, like entering the claus, the claustrum, and anyways, there's just so many different like religious and scientific and like astronomical and occult books that have like I guess like talked about all this stuff in various different ways, but there's a difference between facts and truth, and this is why we need to marry up like the sciences, astronomies, and the and religion, and get on board with this stuff too, because like even with Aries, like the ram, like it represents like the head, it's the first house, and that's like the start of the this clockwise movement that the sun, like the sun and the moon and the constellations do above us, but also within our own bodies. And I have a lot of I have a lot of energy, or whatever you want to call it, in my first house, even though I'm a Capricorn. And like my sun is in the first house in Capricorn, and I have a couple of planets there. But anyway, so Aries, Ram's associated with the head. It's associated with higher levels of consciousness, awareness, and that's again where the pituitary gland and the pineal glands are, and it's also associated with the eyes. And so Taurus associated with the throat as you go down the body, neck, vocal cords, so communication, and then also shoulders. Gemini associated with arms, lungs, hands, and the nervous system in some areas. Again, like this is like a not verbatim, like some people do believe in different things, right? And that's to keep us just divided as well. so even with so Geminis too like talk a lot, and I have my moon in Gemini, so like I do use my hands a lot. Cancer is associated with the chest area, Leo, heart, spinal column, Virgo, digestive system, stomach. You know, the only female sign out of the constellation or the zodiac, whatever you want to call it, or the Mazzaroth. And you only know God, by the way, when you know the Mazzaroth or the zodiac. And this is why, because I connect this all. But anyway, Libra is the kidneys, the skin, and the lower back, but more associated with the kidneys and also balance. Scorpio, the reproductive and sexual organs, but also waste removal too, right? So the Scorpio, interesting that it's the sign where there's like a poisonous animal. That interesting story, if you actually put alcohol on a scorpion, it will actually like stab itself to death. my dog Ranger, he's like laying on the floor. Anyway, and Sagittarius associated with the hips, the thighs, the liver. Capricorn is the joints, the knees, the skeletal system, like the bones. Aquarius going down, again, the ankles and circulation. Pisces, feet, lymphatic system. So associated with like all the way down the list. And then also part of like different houses and different houses that are ruled by different planets. So again, with if you're someone like me that believes that the luminaries above us are frequencies or vibrations that are healing energies or light energies that influence or impact us in certain ways, then when you tie this all together, it's really interesting too. And I've already talked about this before, but even with the Last Supper, it's very symbolic of that they're actually using the zodiac sign, where Jesus or the Sun is in the center, and then on the either side of him you've got the 12 disciples, and it's also associated with the seasons. And so you've got Aries, Taurus, and Gemini, which is symbolic of spring, and then you see it where even Gemini is doing like the hand movements, and so you'll see like very obvious like associations with the zodiac represented in each of the disciples. And then you have for summer you have Cancer, Leo, and Virgo, and then you've got the summer solstice in there. So when we talk about the spring, you've also got the spring equinox, and which is generally speaking the start of the like the original calendar systems and things like that. And then in the summer, I've already talked about the signs, but when the sun is also highest in the sky, and in the Tropic of Cancer, depending on where you are, there is and then you've got the fall or autumn, which is Libra, Scorpio, and Sagittarius, and then you also have like the fall equinox or the spring equinox in there in September. And then again, a lot of like religious, like symbolic events that happen in September, and again, it's also dependent on the new and full moons. And then you've got the winter, which is Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces, and also like the final part of the zodiac, and then like the winter solstice being about the 21st of December, and then you've got 3 days where the sun doesn't technically move in the sky. It still like raises and lowers, but it doesn't move out of its position, and then it enters the Tropic of Capricorn is what I believe, and where it's further out from us, and why we experience like these like colder conditions, because it's further away, not heating us up as much. And then when it enters Capricorn, it heats up. But there's also 13 lunar like full moons within a possible year, and not 12, which also is part of like this older calendar system that I'm talking about. So I think on that note, I don't know if there's anything else that I can talk about with this stuff, but on that note, I hope that everyone has a wonderful day.